Okay, let's take a look at the box office from this past weekend. Total domestic box office was just a little over 89 million, and it held pretty well, right? So I only dropped about 4%. Again, this is like a weird time of the box office where we're going to have a couple big movies for the rest of the year, but this is really now award season, now that we've moved into October. So we're going to probably see over the next couple of weeks and months films opening lower, and then films that had already opened going wide, right? So, and that'll be something we'll talk about in just a bit, of looking ahead to this upcoming weekend's releases. But big story here, of course, is Joker Folie à Deux, the sequel to the 2019 critically acclaimed, in a sense, but perhaps maybe not deservedly, sequel to the 2019 film Joker. This did not turn out very well for Warner Brothers. So it was projected to make about 61 to 75 million for the weekend. And I'm going to do some quick math here. I'm going to pull up the results for the original Joker. So the original Joker in 2019, so 5 years ago, opened to around $96 million domestically. So the projections were already low, right, compared to what the original film had made. And as we got closer and closer to the release, with its festival premiere, I forget where it was. It may have been Venice, or maybe that was the first movie. It didn't really get very good reviews. But the original also did not get very good reviews, especially from the festivals. But it wasn't that it got exclusively bad reviews. It was like very polarizing. Like some people, saying it was like one of the greatest movies they've ever seen, and other people saying this is complete dog shit. This did not have as much polarization. It was a way more loaded towards negative reception. And the word on this movie just got worse and worse and worse. And so by the time you get like actual reviewers, like not going to the festival, but like people reviewing it for this like official theatrical release, once you start getting those reviews, things really were not looking good for this film. Now I'm going to also pull up Rotten Tomatoes, as they would say in England. Joker Folie à Deux has a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And again, Rotten Tomatoes is way more generous because, again, that percentage is not a 1 out of 10 score. It's the percentage of people giving it at least a positive review, and which they define as like a 60% or higher. So that means only 33% of reviewers gave it at least a 6. It doesn't even mean they gave it super high marks. Do we have a critical consensus score? I don't think so. Usually on here we go. So here's the critic consensus of this film on Rotten Tomatoes. Joaquin Phoenix's eponymous Joker takes the stand in a sequel that dances around while the story remains still, although Lady Gaga's wildcard energy gives Folie à Deux some verve. So the film was just not looking to be, to do very well. So those projections, were about 61 to 75 million, but a week earlier they would have been higher. Like they kept getting smaller and smaller. And then the real death knell that made people before these box office results even came out, people were already predicting this wasn't going to do very well because the cinema scores were not very good. So cinema scores basically, it's a very imperfect model. But it's good for identifying when people don't like something. So it'll be like people standing outside of the movie theater if you've ever left the theater and someone has like an iPad, like say what you thought about the movie. And usually just psychologically people want to feel like they didn't waste their time and money. So usually people will give a film they just saw, higher marks than maybe how they really feel. So you always see movies getting so if a movie gets like a B+ cinema score, that's a problem, right? Because even with that bias, people still aren't giving it full marks. This got a D. So clearly audiences who arguably were the primary champions of the original film did not really go for this at all. My opinion on the original Joker, some of you have watched my channel and heard me speak about this before. I think it's pretty mediocre. I think it's fine, but it thinks it's way better than it really is and doesn't really understand what makes the Joker interesting as a character. So, I will admit there's a little bit of schadenfreude here on my part, seeing this film not do well, only opening to around 40 million. So not only did it not meet the disappointing projections, it didn't even really come close. It did have the biggest per theater average of the weekend in the top 10, so, good for it. And it did make a lot of money overseas. So its worldwide total is about 121 million. But again, it's off of like a $200 million budget. So the thing that made the original Joker such a lightning in a bottle is, again, it was polarizing, but you had enough people who thought it was the second coming of Christ. And considering the film was pretty inexpensive to make, all things considered, I mean, the original Joker was only made for about $55 to $70 million. So when it became a $1 billion plus movie, that was a huge percent return. Clearly, everyone involved for the sequel was like, you're going to pay us, Warner Brothers, you really want this movie to be made, you're going to pay us way more. But if you see here, that $200 million budget, I don't think this will remain in the red, as you see over in that right column. I do see it moving past that $200 million mark worldwide, at least. I am dubious about the film's ability to double its budget, to get to like $400 million. And the tell will be next week of how big of a drop does it have. But, even if it's able to make back its budget, this is not the runaway success that Warner Brothers was hoping for. They want to try to replicate that original film. So, I mean, I have not seen it. I don't plan on seeing it unless I have to. And, I'm sure if you're Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, you're maybe a little disappointed, especially Lady Gaga, because from what I've heard from the reviews, she's very underutilized, which I feel like if you have Lady Gaga in your film, that's a huge boon to your success, or potential success. Also opening, we had this random documentary called Sam and Colby: The Legends of the Paranormal. I guess it's like a spin-off or offshoot of like a reality, kind of a ghost hunting show. Again, open in the top 10, only at number 6 though. Made just a little over 1.7 million. Not much to really say there. Though, big announcement, or not announcement, but big news. White Bird finally came out. So, White Bird is the semi-sequel / spinoff to the film Wonder, about the real-life boy, Augie, who has all these birth defects and facial deformities. And this film is a strange backdoor spin-off that's really about the bully from the first film, and it's about him hearing a story from his grandmother, played by Helen Mirren, about her experiences during World War II and fighting against the conflict being a kid in Nazi-controlled Europe. This film was supposed to come out 2 years ago and kept getting pushed back. So I had said last week I will believe it once I actually see some box office numbers that this movie was actually released and American audiences actually went to go see it. We have this confirmation now, so this film really does exist. And despite the low projections, it also, like Joker, did not meet them. So it was projected to make around 3 to 6 million, only made about $1.5 million. But I don't know what they were expecting for a film that they basically blew all their marketing money 2 years ago. Because I remember seeing the trailers when I went to the theater and seeing the poster, and I imagine there wasn't as much money left to let people know this movie was even existed and was coming out. And if you see, it wasn't super expensive to make, but $20 million compared to its worldwide return of roughly 4.6 million, that's still that's right now it's a bomb. It's a, I would say if it's over 75%, or if it's over negative 75% return, I would consider that a bomb. Now, of course, it could do well going into the wintry season, the awards season, but I just don't see. There's just going to be so many great movies coming out that I don't really see if there's going to be enough oxygen for this movie to do very well. Continuing into their second weekend, we have The Wild Robot, DreamWorks' newest animated film, dropping from first to second now in its second weekend, bringing in just under 19 million. And this is going to be interesting to watch, right? So this was almost a 50% drop, but just barely made it below that. About, 48%. Added a couple dozen theaters. The thing about this movie that I talked about last week is that this is not, they were already anticipating this was not going to open huge, and it didn't really open huge. It fell within the projections, but only opened to like 35 million or so. But the goal of this movie, from what I had read, was to play the long game. That they wanted to, they understood they were not going to have that big splashy opening, but if they can kind of be a consistent player week to week, it could be a success, right? This brings its domestic total to about 64 million, and its worldwide total to about a little over 100 million off of a $78 million budget. So it's crossed that initial threshold. Will it cross that additional threshold of doubling the budget? I think so. I've seen the film, my review for it. I didn't have a chance to write it this week, and I'm hoping to write like a little mini review sometime this week. I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best films I've seen of the year. Chris Sanders directed it, who directed Lilo and Stitch, and then went on to do How to Train Your Dragon, also for DreamWorks. And he's just got the sauce. Like, he just understands how to create stories about unlikely pairings, right? With Lilo and Stitch, and then of course in How to Train Your Dragon, I forget their name, but the boy, and then the dragon, Toothless, right? And then this movie, you have the robot, and you have all the animals and everything. So it's just a really heartwarming film that is both, again, really heartwarming, but not too overly sentimental. So I'm hoping that it's able to make back its money, because that, coupled with the animation being so stellar, I hope it could be successful to incentivize DreamWorks and other studios to lean into films like that. And it's arguably the best Pixar film that in the past 10 years, and Pixar didn't even make it, right? Let's see here. Also continuing this week, dropping from 6th to 10th place in its second weekend, Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's epically disastrous, passion project, decades in the making. Only made about a little over $1 million for the weekend, a 74% drop. So again, this is kind of another film that's super, super polarizing. And I think, even if a film's polarizing, when it comes to critical reception, okay, well, polarizing is at least semi-good in that you have a lot of negative, but then a lot of overwhelming praise. But polarizing films rarely play well with audiences, right? Or they're handicapped by polarization. So even if they perform well, they're kind of limited to how well they can perform because of that polarizing nature. It did have the lowest per theater average of the top 10 at just over $500. Because if you think about it, that's only, how much, at least in New York, movie tickets are like $18, $20. So, that might only be like 20 to 50 people per theater going to see this movie, right? This brings its domestic total to a very humble $6.5 million. Worldwide total not much higher at $8.5 million. Again, off of a $120 million budget. So this is shaping up to be one of the biggest bombs in Hollywood history. But again, as Francis Ford Coppola made very clear, and I have said, he's not making this to make money. This is very much a passion project. The guy is not going to be on this earth for much longer. He really just wanted to make this film how he wanted to make it. So I gotta give the guy props. He made the movie he wanted to make exactly how he wanted to make it. And ultimately, if he doesn't care, if other people like it or if it makes money, well, then that's his prerogative because he's a gajillionaire anyway. Looking also at the rest of the top 5, we still have in the top 5 after 5 frames now, dropping from 2nd to 3rd. We have Beetlejuice. And again, at this stage, this is just about making every little bit of cash you can. So it made a little over $10 million. I would say now it's in the kind of, if you look over in my column, domestic multiple. So for new viewers, that's basically a formula of taking the total domestic box office, dividing it by the domestic opening. So the idea is that you want to have a bigger number as a result of that formula, because that means more of your money is being made after the opening weekend, as opposed to having a really big opening weekend and then dropping off like Megalopolis here, right? So since it's entered this yellow zone, I would say it's having some decent legs, right? I would say yellow's decent, green is really good, blue or purple is like phenomenal, right? Because if you look at these numbers, total domestic is like $266 million. Worldwide's about $403 million off of just a $100 million budget. So again, this is not a slam dunk success for Warner Brothers, but it definitely was worth the investment, being like a 300-something% return, right? Also in the top 5, we have still Transformers 1 in its third weekend, dropping from 3rd to 4th. Only bringing in a little over $5 million. Not a huge drop, but again, this is a film that a lot of people were surprised to see not open very large or very big, because the reviews were so great. I saw the film, my review is out if you want to go take a look, but essentially I thought it was kind of not ready for prime time. It was fine, but it kind of felt, the writing and the performances kind of felt like it was for like a Saturday morning cartoon in all the worst ways. So my kind of, armchair, film analyst perspective here is, I think that tone of it feeling a little underbaked and aimed at a really, really young audience, like 6 to 8, as opposed to hitting, maybe more of like a 9 to 12. I think that hurt its ability to bring people in and then get people to go back, right? Because that's the name of the game. You don't make $2 billion, $3 billion from people just going once. You by definition, you need people to be going back over and over and over again. And I just don't think Transformers 1 has that in it. To pull in those kind of numbers. So as of right now, it's brought in about $47 million domestically, $97 million worldwide, but it's off of a $100 million plus budget. So right now, after 3 weekends, it's still in the red. So it's definitely gonna be disappointing for Paramount. But also, they didn't really market the film well or much at all. And then also still in the top 5, holding its 5th place spot, its 4th frame, the horror thriller with James McAvoy, Speak No Evil, bringing just a little under $3 million. This is having some decent legs here. Like I said, when this first came out, I kind of called this a flop. I mean, it seemed like it was going to be a flop at the time, but its worldwide box office has really helped it. So its worldwide is at like $67 million off of just a $15 million budget. And again, I said this last week, it's surprising that this is doing so well internationally, considering this is a remake of a Danish film. So it's like they already have the original. But in any case, this is, I would say is a moderate financial success. And then just lastly, still in the top 10, we have Deadpool and Wolverine. This is the one summer film still holding out. Inside Out 2, gone. Despicable Me 4, gone. Some of those earlier films, of course, are long gone, like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and The Fall Guy and all that stuff. So Deadpool and Wolverine, by virtue of it releasing so late into the summer season, is still in the top 10, but it's been in the top 10 for like 11 weeks now. It only dropped from 7th to 8th, made about $1.5 million. So again, at this point, it's just about every extra little push it can get. Because it's almost at for the domestic multiple, it's almost at the green. It's almost at the 3.0 or greater mark. Because right now it's domestically around $634 million, worldwide 1.3 something billion dollars off of a $200 million budget. So again, Hollywood always takes the wrong lessons from success and failure. Disney and Marvel will definitely take some of those wrong lessons from this, but in any case, they can rest easy knowing that this financially was worth it for them. And looking ahead to this upcoming weekend, we have entering a wide release. So this film's technically already out, but it's in limited engagement. But it's going to, this is Saturday night. The biopic's the wrong word because it's like not about a specific person. It's a dramatization of the first episode of Saturday Night Live and like the behind the scenes like drama to like get it on air. I've heard it's good, but not great. It's projected to, going wide, it's projected to make around 9 to 12 million. I'm going to see it, I think next week, once it's like officially out and everything. And I'm hoping it's good because I liked the trailers, which I wasn't thinking I was going to like because the idea of this film feels a little cynical, especially considering we're about to enter I think they just entered their 50th season, so I'm sure it's no accident that the timing, I'm sure that timing is not coincidental. But I'm hoping it's good and could it be a rewards contender? Probably not, but it can make a little chunk of change here. Also opening, we have the horror film Terrifier 3. I have never seen any of the Terrifier films. I don't really know much about it. I'm not very optimistic about this, but if it ends up being semi-good, maybe I'll go catch it. And it's projected to make about 5 to 8 million. Again, like I said at the beginning of this segment, this is the season where we're going to have a lot of smaller movies coming out. The big kind of blowing their load, so to speak, that Hollywood did was over the past couple months. And then we also have the controversial Donald Trump biopic, The Apprentice, finally getting an official theatrical release. I've done a couple stories on this movie if you want to check out the channel to kind of hear a little bit about the background of this. But it's going to be interesting to see how this does, and how this affects the election, if at all. It's very controversial. It's not super flattering of Donald Trump. It's only projected to make about 4 to 7 million. I got a comment here from JJ Because. Hello, JJ Because. I know who you are. I won't say your name in case you don't want people to know. But referencing Saturday Night, he says, quote, "It's actually pretty all right. Definitely some annoying bit, but also some interesting insights. It's fun to watch everyone act like an asshole." Exactly. That's like what I enjoyed watching the trailer to see kind of like the chaos of it and to see, you know, how everything's actually going to come together. I'm interested to see, like, the trailer almost makes it, especially near the end of the trailer, because it starts to get like really stressful and the editing becomes a lot more quick and like the music starts to swell and there's like this like ticking clock. Like, it almost feels like a thriller, like a comedy thriller, if that's even possible. So I imagine the actual film is not going to be like that. But the trailer release has piqued my interest. So hopefully it is, you know, it's more than just fine. Because, like, I expect it to be fine, but I'm hoping it's enjoyable and good and something I would want to watch again. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.